Hi, I'm Captain Obvious. Let's do some less lethal experiments without a hypothesis, without any expected results, and probably we won't know any more at the end than we did when we started. Hi everybody, welcome back for another video. I was sitting in my office the other day just looking around and thinking about experiments, and the thought came into my mind about less lethal defense and a lot of the experiments, so-called in quotes, that you see these days. Let me talk about it, folks. I want you to think about what is a real experiment. A real experiment has a hypothesis, and you design a set of experiments that test that hypothesis. You can have a hypothesis that's a positive hypothesis that you want to test, or maybe you have a null hypothesis. You want to prove something is negative. That's even harder to do. So a lot of the time, what I see is a lot of folks who are doing things that are not really experiments. They are what we call fishing expeditions. And I'm wearing my Swim Across America shirt because there are a lot of fishing expeditions out there where there is a let's test so-and-so in hope that we may find so-and-so. It is very exploratory, and there's no rational, logical endpoint. There is no expected result. There is no conclusion that maybe will be satisfiable later on that you can then justify why you did the potential experiment that you did. I'm not trying to be dry here. I mean, I know that a lot of new discoveries come by doing just exploratory things, just trial and error, and that's fine. But you have to realize that there is an amount of time that you have to spend on that. You have to buy parts and pieces to do these kind of things. In the real world, you just can't do that kind of thing willy-nilly without a funding source that's reliable. And also your average person is just not going to want to waste their time doing this. And so you have these types of experiments that are being done, and a lot of times the other types of experiments that I see are literally Captain Obvious experiments is what I call them. They're testing something that we already know the answer. There's virtually nothing changed. In fact, the exact experiment may have been done a year or two before, but they're just doing it again. Maybe they want to test it in a slightly different way. Maybe the temperature is different. Maybe the season. Maybe it's a different launcher. Maybe you want to test. But I find that there's a lot of this kind of thing, and I find it extremely redundant, so it really makes it hard for me to get interested at all in these kind of things, especially after you've watched multiple times and you see, okay, that didn't work, or this was a little bit better, or the standard of interpreting this information is very weak, and it's really hard to judge. Also related to that is what I call the Me Too experiment, which I think I've mentioned before in one video. Me Too. That means Joe Schmo did a test with his launcher and he found a result, and I'm just determined that I have to go and do the exact same thing and say, me too, look what I got the same result, or I got a slightly different result. That is something that happens in science, but the reality is it's just not considered to be adding anything new to the situation. Now, if you're going to do something a little bit different. Add something that extends the knowledge base, but it's okay to confirm what someone else did, but extend it a little bit further. Don't just replicate exactly what someone else did. Now, I know that in different situations and different people, different launchers, different settings, things can vary. So I think there's probably an interest within the field in seeing reproducibility and things done a lot. But what is at the fundamental core of a lot of the testing that people are doing. Every time someone is doing a test and they're sharing their results, there's the inevitable, very superficial discussion, and then it's just left hanging. There's never a real resolution or a wrap-up of consensus about what other people have observed and what's the overwhelming odds that this is either a good thing or a bad thing in terms of making the launcher more valuable to you. So I try to come in, and part of my role is to summarize what I see from lots of people doing lots of things. I don't try to get in there and replicate everything that everyone's doing, because I have no desire to do that, first of all. But second of all, there's a flurry of people who are anxiously waiting to do these kind of things, and I let them do it, and what emerges is a consensus from that, and I think that's something that is important to pull together. In my field, in research, you write review articles which summarize the field and pull things together and reference all of those, and it puts it in one place so that people can read it and they can then understand a field and catch up really quickly. So I think what's lacking in the less lethal community right now is that everybody assumes that everybody else knows 100% of all the information that's out there, and they just pick right up, and they assume that everyone is up to speed. That is not the case. We have newcomers that are coming in, and they're getting partial information that's going way over their head, and they're not catching up. They're making assumptions in terms of their thinking because it's not being explained fully. I'm trying to do that. I try to come in, and when I see things that I think people are not understanding, and I see where people are misinterpreting this or that because the experiments are all scattered and there's no consensus, I'm trying to provide that myself. So that's one of my goals, is to try to explain what is a real experiment, what do we learn, and go from there. And a lot of what I do is essentially trying to clean up some of the information that's out there that sort of spreads and is not really factual, not really based on what people are seeing. And also I do try to clean up and eliminate the sales bias. There's such a push to sell products and a lot of bias out there, and I think you have to ignore that and those kind of tests and put them aside and focus on the real unbiased test. And there are people doing those. You have to sift through. When you scroll down and you search less lethal defense in YouTube, you're going to go by advertisement after advertisement after salesman after salesman, and then you'll find some, a percentage, 10%, 20% of people who are doing real experiments and doing testing with no profit motive, and they're just doing it for the sake of helping other people. That's the information you want to focus on. You do not want to focus on the salesman. If you follow the money, if the person is selling stuff, or they have affiliate links associated with their video, or they're always talking about the same company, those are flags that they have some business relationship. Focus on those folks that have no bias. They tend to talk about different types of products, and people that you know that the information you're getting and the testing that they're doing is fair and without bias. And that's hard to come by these days. I'm on the watch out. I consider myself sort of a lookout for these kind of things, and I will flag this type of information and misinformation and skewing of information whenever I can, but I can't do it all, and I certainly am not watching all of these people's videos because a lot of them I just can't stomach, but I do the best that I can. So if you want to know about experiments, trust a scientist. I've been doing experiments since the early 90s, over 30 years now, and I know what a real experiment is, and I know how to make real conclusions, and I don't want you to be misled. So everybody just be smart about digesting the flow of information that you're getting on YouTube. There's a lot of it, and some of it is advertisements coming from some folks daily. And if they're putting out stuff daily, they're just trying to get your attention, keep these products in your mind so that you're more likely to buy them. That's the kind of flow of, it's like from a fire hydrant. That kind of stuff is a little bit shady to me. If the person has a good product, they'll put something out once in a while, but they're not going to bombard you over and over and over. That's just a little bit much. So that's how I feel about this topic. Let me hear your thoughts. I love to have the conversation. That's what this is all about. Everybody take care, and we'll see you next time.